So here in our discussion today, we are going to discuss about the SAP user management. User management. It will come to the user creation and role creation, how to check the authorization errors, and it kind of basic troubleshooting, like basic security related work. Okay, security related work. But previously, security is part of our basis team. So, but now they have separated. SAP security is separated. They are the dedicated team. How we have the development and functional teams. So, the security is the separated, right? So, security means we have here. So many security teams are there, like right. R3 security functionality means normal SAP above functionality, normally GRC and BPC security and HR security. So many security people, many security modules are there, right? So, but we are discussing about the R3 security means above security part, right? So above security means R3 security. So what is mean by security? So what exactly we will discuss here? User creation, user lock, user unlock, rename. So all kind of work we will discuss in the security topic here. This security topic here. So why security is required in the systems? First of all, why security is required in the systems? What will happen if you don't have the user ID, password, roles? Suppose user ID, password is there. Suppose what if you don't have the restrictions? So what exactly happens? Okay. Okay, so here security, like without user ID password, how can we log into the system? So if it is the public access, it's given to the public, everyone can log in and everyone can do the whatever the changes he required, he can do the changes in the system, right? There is no security part. Even your mobile devices, in our mobile devices, so security is the very important, right? In our mobile devices, security also very important. Not only mobile devices, laptops, any device we have in our home also we are putting the storm grass. Okay. So am I audible right? Clearly now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, we are discussing about the security users and everything. Even our small mobile device only we are putting the lot of securities, right? If so SAP system also we have the security. So in order to in a authorized person, unauthorized person, in order to access authorized persons, they will take the data, financial data and everything. For to that avoiding the security team, we have every organization there is a security team. They will create the user ID and passwords, right? They will create the user ID and passwords so that who are the authorized person, they will log into the SAP system. They can do the transactions, they can pull the data, they can view the data and everything. And also within our teams as well. So I have the dedicated basis team. Like only the basis person, he has to execute only basis related work, not the security related, not the others related work. He has to perform only security related work. Sorry, basis related work. So security person only security related work. Then how can we restrict here? How can we restrict here? Only this person has to create only this related transaction code. So here we need to create the role. So the role will define, the role will tell you what you are, what transactions you have to execute it, what are your boundaries to execute in SAP systems. The role will tell you. So how to create the role then? How to create the users then? So all these things, how to create it. So for the user creation, we have to use the Su01 is the transaction code for the single user creation, single user creation, right? Single user creation, we have to use the Su01 is the transaction code. So if you go to the system level, log into the our training system here, then we can see so how to do that one, how to create the users then. So those those related things we can see here now. Okay, user creation, then how to assign the role to user. So before you creating the user, before you creating the users, so what we have to do, we need to create the roles in the system. Why? Because some roles we have to define in the system. Why? Because when you are creating the, now see, everyone using the basis user, if someone deleted, we are not sure what he deleted and everything, right? That is the reason we need individual user IDs, individual user IDs, so that if any person done something, so then we can track it, what exactly he is doing and everything. That's the reason we need the individual user IDs. That's why we have to create the user IDs in the system, right? So before creating the user IDs, first of all, we need to define the roles, role and authorization data. So we have to define in the, so Pfcg is the transaction code. In this transaction code, we have to define the roles. This is called the role maintenance transaction code. Okay, role maintenance role maintenance transaction code. Okay, these two transaction codes are very helpful to so creation of the role and assigning the role to the particular user, so that whatever the role you are assigning to user, so only that related transactions he can perform in the SAP systems. So first of all, so using, first of all, we need to define the role actually. So to manage the roles and also the authorization data, so which authorizations he can do that one, what transactions he has to execute it. So all the restrictions, organization levels, all the restrictions we can perform in the Pfcg transaction code. So Pfcg transaction code is used to create the roles and maintain the authorization data, maintain the authorization data, right? So here, so we have to use the Pfcg. Okay, only one transaction code for the Pfcg, that is the Pfcg transaction code. Okay, so now to create the role, we have to go to the Pfcg is the transaction code here, right? Pfcg is the transaction code here. Here in the Pfcg transaction code, here we need to maintain the role name. So what is the naming convention of the role here? So SAP standard related roles are starts with the SAP star. So our custom roles are starts with the Z underscore. So when you are creating the role manually, so the role name should be Z underscore. So when you are doing the, when the SAP will give you some data to us, SAP standard roles. So you can filter it out here. So you can filter out the roles here. We have the data. We have the some roles in the SAP system. If you browse it, you will see the, you will see the so roles here. See here, SAP related standard data. For the account manager, the finance account manager, we have to assign this role. So general ledger, we have to assign this role. So buyer, we have to assign this role. Sales manager, we have to assign this role. Manufacturing person, we have to assign this role. So like that, we have the roles are already defined in the system. Standard roles. It starts with the SAP star. You can see the all the standard roles are available here. All the standard roles already available here in the systems. So normally organization, they won't use the standard roles, they will use the custom roles. So how can we create the custom roles then? So while creating the custom roles, you need to define the z underscore something, like you need to define it. Suppose like we have to create the basis role, custom basis role, basis. Suppose like we have to create the basis role for the freshers. So z underscore, so basis underscore fresher, like that I am defining the one role here. Just click on the create button. Just click on the create button. Okay, here give the role description. Role description is this role is anything just to understand the what is this role. This role for freshers in SAP basis team to understand the to understand the subject and everything. Okay, so suppose if tomorrow if any new person comes by seeing the description, okay, so if any basis freshers joins, so we have to assign the this role and everything, right? So if we have to assign the this role and everything, we have to assign to the him. Okay, just click on the go to menu path here. Go to menu path, save it. So first of all we have to save the role here. First of all we have to save the role here. In the role menu, go to the here, you can see here, so what transactions you are allocating to the here. Okay, just click on the transaction. Okay, just allocate the transactions here. So what transactions you require for the freshers, right? Suppose in your organization you are allowing to give, so SM50 is the transaction, SM51 for the active servers transaction, maybe ST22 dumps checking for the transaction. So now SM51, SM21 for the so system logs. So you want to give this transaction codes. You want to give this transaction code for the authorization check, SE53. All these transactions you want to give to the user, then assign this transaction to the user here. So not only transactions, you want to give the suppose some report, one report you want to assign to the user to execute it. So that reports also you can give it. So suppose here transaction, not only transaction, some Fury catalogs and groups, WebDen Pro applications, authorizations default, reports, whatever. Oh, one cancelled my user. That's why you can see, right? So people so will cancel it. That's the reason we need the individual ID. If the individual ID, then we can do our own. We can create we can do so without disturbing others. So see here, now I am working in the system. Someone logged into the so basis user, then he canceled the my session here. He canceled the my session here, right? He canceled the my session in the system. By luckily we have saved the role, but not saved the so the transactions which we assigned. Now I'm going to assign the transactions again. Okay, ST22, SM21, then so SM50, so SM51. So these transactions I'm assigning to the so user. This transaction I am assigning to the freshers to check that one. Okay, I assigned this transaction to the user fresher. So I saved the data here. Okay, I saved the data here. And also whatever, suppose not only transactions you want to assign the some other functionalities as well. So you have everything is there here, so you can assign it. So whatever you want to assign it, you can assign the so you can assign the data here, right? Then go to the workflow here. So nothing is there here, we don't have any workflow talks, nothing, right? Go to the authorization. This is the very important here. So here go to the authorization data, change authorization data. So just click on the OK button, just change the authorization data and everything. Why? Because you assigned the transaction, so that is perfectly fine. You assigned the transaction, that is the perfectly fine now. But you assigned the transaction, but what he has to do by using the transaction, so that is fine. You assigned the transaction, saved it, that is fine. Profile is generated. So go back, generate, profile is created now. Okay, now go back, take the new session, create the one user. Suppose I'm creating the Ravi is the one of the user I'm creating. Just click on the create button. Okay, in Su01 we can create the user. So Mr. So last name, suppose like SAP. So mandatory fields I'm filling here. So company name already defined. Go to the logon data. So these are the users types. You can see the types of users here. So while creating the users, we have types of users, right? Which user you want to create it? Either the dialog user, system user, and what is the types, user types. So these are the user types in the system. So dialog users means, so let me explain. Okay, so now we created the role, fine. Z underscore some basis underscore fresher role we created. Just role create, we assigned the transactions, right? We assigned the transactions, not the authorization data. Authorization data means, so what he has to execute you by using these transactions. We can only display, we can only execute, we can only change what he has to execute. That things we are not defined. So what if I am not defined the that authorization actions, right? We will see now. But before that, we have to create the user, right? So I'm going to create the user in Su01 is the transaction code, right? Su01, we can create the users. We can create the users here. So while creating the users, so here the types of users are there. Which user? Types of users are there. Which user you want to create it? Either the dialog user. What is meant by dialog user, right? Dialog user means we we will log into the our system from GUI. Then the dialog user has the password, initial password, expired password, validity, and everything. He will carry out the all the standard transactions and everything. So he has the dialog user means we. So dialog or process is taking our request, right? That is the reason we are the dialog user. So one more user type is called the system user. Okay, system user. So what is mean by system user here? The dialog user is the interactive user. Interactive user means he can log in from the SAP GUI to SAP screen. He can log in with user ID and password. He can do the work. So why? Because by logging, dialog workflows will take care of the all the requests. But system user is like non-interactive users. They are used to the background processing, internal communications, like such as like RFC administration perspective, workflow, TMS, CUA. So for this reason, we have to use the system user. Why? Because sometimes we will maintain the user in the RFC destinations. Some RFC destinations, TMS ADM users, CUA, these all are the system users, which means these users, we cannot log in with these users. Why? Because these are in the background jobs. So we cannot log in with these users. Why? Because these users, so does not, this is not in non-interactive users. That's the reason. Now, which user you are going to create? So dialog user or system user? Dialog user, right? That's why we put the dialog user. So system user is used to, for example, like, so workflow, CUA, TMS, and CMS, and jobs, the jobs perspective, the RFC destination. So all these areas, the RFC destinations, in the log on security tab, we will assign the one user, right? That user is called the system user. We can also assign the dialog user, but it's not the, so recommended user to assign in the dialog mode. So we have to assign in the system user, we have to assign it. Okay, so next one is the communication user. So this is a very important question, guys. In one of the last 2 days back, in one of the interview, they may ask you this question: can you tell me the types of users in SAP? In Su01, when you are going to create it, types of users, right? So I explained about these types of users. Okay, so next one is the communication user. So communication users. So communication user means communication user. So C, user type C. So which means used for the dialogue free communication between the systems, which means system to system communication between two systems. This user is used for the communication user. So dialog user, system user, and a communication user. Communication user means communication user means it kind of, so its logon is not possible. Definitely we know the passwords are valid certain period, and it's kind of communication between the systems. Between two systems, we have to use the this communication user. Suppose here the one system, you want to connect to the other systems, then you need to define the this user, communication user, you have to define it. So next one is the service user. Service user. So type is yes here. The shortcut name is yes. So service user. Service users are, so service users. These are the dialogue user only. So it's kind of dialogue user only. In the service level, we will assign this one. In the service level, we can assign this one. Okay, given to the service level. It kind of dialogue user, we can assign it. In the service level, we will define the service users in the name itself. So service level, it's kind of anonymous group of users and what. So the system does not check the initial passwords and expired passwords during the logon. So just the system, it can log in the service to service communication purpose. We will use this service to service communication purpose. We will use this service users. Okay, the next one is the reference users. Okay, reference users, which means reference users are means like service user only. Okay, non-person related users. So just like it's like a service user. Reference user is like, so service user only. A reference user used to only some additional authorizations, other additional authorizations. So normally we don't use all these things. Actually, we don't use all these things. Only dialogue user or system user we will use it. Apart from that, we never use the reference user, service user, communication users, all these things. But so types of users we have: dialogue user, system user, communication user, a service user, reference user. Reference user are like service user only. Okay. So but so dialogue also, not dialogue user not log on possible means it's kind of like we cannot log in from SAP GUI. All these three we cannot log in. All these four we cannot log in with SAP logon pad. Only here we are logging through dialogue mode. Dialogue mode means dialogue process taking care of our request. So that is the reason dialogue, we are the dialogue users. So system in the background job level, workflow level, we will maintain the user. So RFC destination, these are the system. Communication user, communication between communication, right? The name itself, we have the communication between the two systems. Service user, in the service level, we will maintain the one user. Suppose if you go to the SICF transaction code, there we will maintain the suppose like if we go to the here, if we go to the SICF transaction services, where can we activate the services? We go to the SICF transaction. So here we will maintain the one user here, right? Service activation can be performed using the SICF transaction code, right? Any service, any path we can activate from here, right? So here you can just open the, suppose service activation. Suppose open this one. So here you can see, so user we have to maintain the logon data. Here we have to maintain the user ID password. Sometimes we have to maintain the user ID and the password some users. So that's the reason. So some services we have to create the service users, right? That is called the service users, service level. Reference user same as like service user only. Normally these two are mainly used in the organization. Mainly these two are mainly used in this organization, right? Dialogue user and system user are the mainly used in the system. Now we can go ahead and create the one user now. Dialogue user, just I'm defining the initial password. Okay, defining the initial password here. So group, if you want to, if you have any group, you can assign it. From which date to which date the user is available. If you don't define it, so unlimited access, unlimited validity period, you can define it. So essentially nothing is there. Defaults, So menu, something like that, we can assign it. Any printer you want to assign it to the here, you can assign the printer. Which time zone? India time zone user. Okay. Then parameters. You can define any parameters. Nothing is there, then leave it. Then role, what role you have to assign it to the user. So we have role created, right? Z underscore role created is the fresher. So that's the reason I just allocated the fresher role I am creating to the user here. Fresher role I created. Okay, today only I created. I am assigning the fresher role to the user. Then click on the save button. Here, log on data, the role is very important here. Now I will log in with so Ravi user, then he is the fresher, right? Then he can do the his work now. Go to the reset the password here. So reset the password here. Then set the password. Then you can execute the ST22, only ST22. In ST22 also you are getting you are not authorized to use the transaction. Okay, fine. Then SM51, you can see. So you got the transaction is opened, but some restricted transaction. So then if you open the SM21 system logs, it's not opened. Why? Because you are not the authorized person to open the system log transaction, right? You can see you are not the authorized person. So dedicated only few transactions we assign it to the Ravi user. Few transaction. Suppose if I go to the STMS, he cannot access the STMS. So if I go to Scott, he cannot access the Scott transactions. Why? Why means we have not assigned any transactions we assigned. But the thing is, what actions he has to perform? Authorization data is missing here. Authorization data is missing here. In the transactions, he need full authorization or only display authorization. What he required. That is the reason we are not defined. Just we assigned the transactions, saved the role, same role we assigned it to the user, right? So now this person, Ravi person, he is able to log into the system but unable to access the anything here. So if you go to Su53, you can see here the authorization related failed errors. So in the company, if you are unable to access something, just execute the Su53 is the Su53 is the transaction to display the authorization data. To display the authorization data means why you are unable to access, to display the authorizations data, to display the authorization data. So you have to create, you have to use this all these transactions, and you have to use this Su53. It will display the authorization data means what object you missed, what object you missed, s underscore t code, s underscore t code, s underscore t code. So all these objects you missed now. Okay, now you have to send the screenshot to the security guy. You have to inform to the security person. The security person will assign the roles to authorization data to you. Now go to here and just click on the add button. Here transaction codes you have assigned, but you have not assigned any data here. Just select the manually what object you are going to assign it, right? So what object you are going to assign it. So how can I know, sir, which transaction code is related to the which object? See here s underscore t code, s underscore t code is the object here. So that go to the here s underscore t code. Just assign this authorization object. Now you will get the here. Now expand it, click the transaction code. So which transaction you need, just assign the full authorizations, click on the save button, click on the save button, then generate. It's kind of security work, it will be confusing to you. So that's the reason not explaining in detail. Oh my God. Okay, I'm again relogging here to check the so whether still I have the user access or not. So I went to the here. You can see now I am able to access the ST22 transaction code. Now I am able to access the ST22 transaction code, and so other like SM21 transaction codes. So all these transaction codes I am able to access now. All this transaction code I'm able to access except STMS. Why? Because STMS is I have not assigned this transaction code to my user. That is the reason I am unable to access this transaction codes. So what we did here, under this role we created the role, right? Under this role, so we have authorization data. So in the authorization data, so we have maintained the respective object. Each transaction code, there is a object, that object we have maintained in the each object there is a transaction code. We have object authorization data we have maintained, the authorization object we have maintained in the system. So here we have maintained and given the full permissions, whatever the permissions it will restrict, we are given that permissions. Then we have assigned this to the respective role. We have assigned to the here. We have assigned to the respective role. Then this role is assigned to the particular user we have assigned, so that we are assigning. So how you find out the authorization errors and everything? If you go to Su53 transaction code, you will see the what errors you have split, what authorization errors you have in the system, all the information you get it. So this is the authorization object, this is the authorization object you have to assign to the user. So then how to find out this authorization object? If you go to Su24 or 22, you will find out the, so here this is the maintain the display values. If you go to the Su22, here suppose you want to find out the STMS is the transaction code, what is the authorization object, what is the authorization object for the STMS. See here, to use the STMS transaction code, you need authorization to all these authorization objects, all these authorization objects you need, right? So that is the reason. So here Su22 is to find out the authorization object. That object we can find out from the Su22. Su53 is for the to display the authorization data. So for the DDAC user, there is a authorization check was successful. For the Ravi user, it's failed. Why? Because we have some issues, right? We have authorization got failed here. So like that we can find out. So Pfcg is the transaction code to create the Pfcg is the transaction code here to create the so role here. So we can create the role, or we can maybe security role. We can create the role, single role. Single role means, so it is the single, like only one role. What is mean by single role here? Okay, Pfcg. So what is the here types of roles are there? Single role, and so single role and a complex role. Single role and complex roles we have, right? So what is mean by single role here, right? Single role means the role which we are creating, that is the role here, that is the single role. So composite role means collection of collection of collection of roles are called the composite roles. Okay, so you can see here what is, so let me see you here. While creating the role, you can see here single role, right? Single role and composite role. What is mean by composite role? So the role which we can multiple roles, the role is a collection of single roles that we can group into one composite role, that is called the composite role. Single role means, so normal our roles which we are creating, that is the single role. Multiple roles we can combine it here, called the single role or composite role. Single role means normally which we are creating the single, that is the single role here. Okay, security 1, just create the role, then go to the menu for the security. So what roles we want to assign it to the security? So all these things you can assign it to the here, all the transaction codes. Then go to the authorization data, change the authorization data and everything here. Assign the authorizations and objects and everything here. You can assign it everything to the user. Then generate and so save it. Then user can access, assign these users to the access. That is the role creation. So not giving the detailed discussion like what is the organization levels here, organization levels here. So all these things we have here. So what is this? When you go to the authorization data, so we have organizational levels. So org levels and everything is available here. Org levels and everything is available here. So I'm not going to explain this one. Why? Because it will be confusing very. So that's why I'm not going to explain. So for this type of knowledge is enough for you guys. Okay, you don't need the in-deep knowledge here. Okay, so single user creation Su01 you can use it. So Su10 is for the mass user creation. If you want to create the multiple users, then you can use the Su10. Su10. So suppose you want to create the hundreds of users at a time. Go to the Su10, provide the ABC. So X, Y, Z, maybe AB. So suppose all users you want to create. So then you can put all the names here. Just click on the create button. Then all users will be created at a time. You can see all users are created. The passwords also generated by the system. Right? You can see passwords also generated by the system. So like that, we can create the number of users. So Su10 is for the mass user creation, mass users. But Su01 is for the single user creation. So suppose user is locked, you can unlock the users. So you can unlock it. If you want to copy the user, you can copy from other users. If you want to delete the user, you can delete it. So if you want to change, if you want to reset the password, just click on the rechange the password. The password will be reset to the users. So all activities we can perform from Su01 or Su10. So role creation Pfcg and authorization objects display Su53. To finding out the authorization object related to the particular T code Su22. Su22 are the transaction codes. Okay, I think a single role means this is a single role, like what the roles we are creating, that is a single role we are creating. Composite means collection of the group of single roles are called the composite roles. Okay, so now what you have to do, you have to log in with your own user, all persons, then create your own users, create your, somehow I created the own user, you can create it, but don't create the, if you want to create the roles you can create it, roles if you want to create you can create it, but the thing is, when you're creating the role, so you may get the issues, so you can ignore it, you can practice it. For the basis perspective, for the basis perspective, you can copy from DDSC user. Why? Because DDSC has all the authorizations. So just you can copy from, you can copy from DDSC users, then you will get the roles profile, you will get SAP underscore all profile, you will get means you have the all SAP authorizations, you are the administrator, you can access anything here. So create that, assign this profile to your user, then create your own user, that will be good. Okay, so you can do this one, create your own users, don't use basis DDAC and everything, create your own user by copying the, DDAC user, then create your own users, so that, so you can log in with your own users, then you can perform the all the activities, so that others it won't disturb you. Why? Because you are creating your user, you are logging with your own user, others won't disturb you. So that you can see here Ravi user what he is doing, DDS user what he is doing, basis user what he is doing, all the things we can monitor it here, right? So this is the security related small information. So tomorrow we have Saturday, right?